Hello, everyone. We're back. We're back again. It's the third year of the WNBA season preview show, and I even got him to come back. I haven't scared him away yet. We're on year three, so I'm gonna push my luck a little bit and have him back again. Welcome, Kelvin.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric. It's always a blast hanging out with you. And as soon as this is when I know it's about time. As soon as we have this podcast, it's May 1st when we're recording this, so it's this month that the season's starting. So that's when I know it's time for the W. I'm ready.
Training camp's kicked off, and so we kicked off. We know, the draft is over, college season's over. We know who's here, who's not here. We know, I think it's a pretty quiet free agency, overall in the WNBA. So not many too big of moves that happen there probably somewhere. So with that, we'll go through our normal predictions. I did not keep my streak of getting the champions right last year. I had
Your 1 year streak
my 1 year streak, and I mean that was
in one end, huh?
that was I've been living off those fumes still. That was a good guess on my end. So, but Calvin, before we get started, I don't know why people wouldn't know, but where can people find you and what kind of your area of expertise?
I would say just general women's basketball, college WNBA. I guess I would call myself a freelance journalist or whatever word you want to use. Podcasts, articles, that whole deal. You can find me on any of the social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, as C Wetzel 31. And yeah, my bio probably has all the different outlets where my stuff is at, so you can go check that out. But
And
that's
if
where I'm
you want
at.
help on bets, if you want help on video editing, if you want him to help me, he's going to help me on this podcast explain why the Lynx are going to surprise the world and win the title. So he can do all of it. So let's kick it off. Let's start with the big one, or actually one of the more easier ones. Let's start with one of my favorite awards every year, Rookie of the Year. Now, Kelvin, I'm going to put it like this: Is Rookie of the Year going in a one person race, or are there some people that could sneak up there?
It's definitely not fair to call it a one-person race, in my opinion. It's definitely, I think, more wide open than something we'll get to a little bit later, the championship, which I think is only a two-team race. I think there's a better chance for someone to maybe come in and steal this who isn't the favorite than what you have on the team side. That being said, it is Aaliyah Boston's to lose, I think, not just because she's obviously the best rookie, the number one overall pick, but she's also in the situation where she's poised to produce the most right away because she got drafted to a team that is going to have a lot of minutes open for her right away. She should be starting, I assume, over Queen Egbo right away on the Fever. You have a lot of rookies who maybe come in and are fighting for minutes and competing with vets, and the Fever don't really have that. So it's also just going to be about pure volume and numbers for her as well. It's going to be hard for any of the rookies to really just put up the type of numbers and I think the type of volume that she's going to get, the usage that she's going to get on that team. So it's definitely hers to lose. But no, I mean, Rookie of the Year, we've seen a lot of surprises lately in the last few years or so. The Lynx in particular, I think, have had something to do with that. And maybe they do again this year. So I wouldn't call it set in stone by any means.
So here's where I'm going to surprise people. I don't, and this is nothing against them. I mean, the draft, as people know, if you know me, I wasn't exactly, running down the street screaming in excitement because I had someone else I would rather have, but she's here. They're all here. They're all doing great. I think in terms of with Boston, kind of like what you said, they have kind of they're built in. Indiana's almost built in for her to be like, okay, we have a starting spot. We're building around you. We're, hyping you up. She's going to get every minute, she's going to get everything she needs to win the award. So to me, barring an injury or barring a situation where maybe someone that we're not even like thinking about like explodes, but I just think looking at the other like ones who could be contenders, I look at like Diamond Miller, and while she's good, I'm also seeing in her position Nafisa, Ariel Powers, Kayla McBride, and Bridget Carlton right there in front of her. So I'm trying to figure out where Miller could get minutes in front of them to even be enough to get that. And then I look at the Dallas ones. I mean, Lou's already, they're stating already has injuries, so she's coming in late. Maddie, I think Maddie's a great player. I don't know how Maddie fits in. And then once again, bias coming out. If you're a Dallas rookie, are you ever going to get the ball if Enrique's on the floor? Just quick, and maybe he's gone too. So there's like nothing to rein her in. And so that's why to me, I'm like, I don't know if anyone else is going to get the volume of to show enough to kind of steal that award away from Boston. Now, if Boston, doesn't start or is slow out of the gates, we always say, I think a post, they almost transition to the game a lot. It's a steeper transition because you're going against a lot. She's no longer going to be like towering over post. She's going to be seeing people eye to eye. They're going to have more muscle than her, kind of thing. And here's where my bias comes out. If there's one that I think could do it, it's my all-time favorite, Haley Jones. And she's at that lucky number 6 where MVP was drafted. And I think Haley's in a situation to where she could get enough minutes, she could do enough because she can handle and she has a lot of places to pass. I think Tanisha's going to get a lot out of her. That would be my backup. If someone is going to take it from Aaliyah Boston, I think it will be Haley Jones. My prediction on that.
I do like Haley Jones as maybe I don't know if you want to say a dark horse, but someone who probably has a better chance to come up and steal that than the number 2 and the 3 picks for the reasons that you mentioned with Diamond Miller and that sort of positional logjam. And Maddie Segrist, to your point about the ball that it's Enrique's ball. Aaliyah Boston is also just the type of player, even though, like you said, it's maybe a little bit of a steeper learning curve for posts to jump that level. It's also Aaliyah Boston is the type of player who doesn't necessarily need the ball as much in order to produce and to have an impact and to put up numbers. Even if she's not dominating the post on offense, she's going to block shots. She's going to play defense. She's going to rebound. She's going to do those type of things. Whereas Maddie Segrist is probably the type of player to really reach her full potential would have to have the ball in her hands more. And on the Fever, Kelsey Mitchell is going to be getting shots and Erica Wheeler is going to be getting shots. And that's fine. Aaliyah Boston's still going to be producing and doing what she does in other areas. So, yeah, to your point, I think the number 2 and the number 3 picks in particular have a really kind of steep road to get it. But I do like that Haley Jones is maybe the second favorite right now if you had to pick someone.
I said that's why I'm biased and I can't even. I'm trying to find a way to be like, how does Diamond get it? But I just don't, because I think the length, partly due to the money that's behind those players and their talent and how good they are. Those 4 in front of her, I don't see them coming off the floor. At least not a lot, to where I think Diamond maybe this year, because if they were looking towards the future, so I see Diamond maybe spot minutes here and there if they're in foul trouble kind of thing. But those 4 are all right in front of her. And you're not going to take Nafisa Collier off the floor in any kind of competitive game.
No, yeah, no question.
We'll get to MVP later on in other awards. Well, we got the rookie one done. Now is one of my favorite ones. I want to go. How about Coach of the Year? Who's stepping out for for coach? Because Becky got it last year, and Becky's team predicted to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to look at this, and I think the angles that you can look at this are pretty similar to the angles that we can look at MVP, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You can look at it as whoever gets the 1 seed out of those 2 teams, the Liberty and the Aces, could have a really strong argument for Coach of the Year just by virtue of they're probably going to have one of the better regular season records that we've seen in WNBA history, because these are 2 of the best teams that we've seen in WNBA history. And one of these teams is probably going to win lower to mid 30s games, which doesn't happen very often. So especially now that we have a 40 game schedule instead of 34, 36, whatever it used to be. The other angle that you could look at it is that there's such a logjam in the middle of the league right now that there are a lot of teams that don't really have super high expectations. And if one of those teams comes out and gets the 3 seed or even the 4 seed, which especially the 4 seed, I think is fairly wide open at this point. And maybe it's a team that a lot of people thought was going to be 8th or 9th. That coach is going to have a really good argument too. I think in the end, it's going to go to whoever gets the 1 seed though. And I actually think that is going to be the Liberty. So I would go with Sandy as my slight front runner for Coach of the Year. But it's really going to depend on how she uses all those pieces, because she has all the pieces. She has, I think, even a little bit of a better roster than what the Aces have right now, although it's close. If she can, the difference is that the Aces outside of Candace Parker and a couple bench pieces like Alicia Clark have all done this already. They've all played together. They've had a year in this system. Even the Liberty, you're putting a bunch of new pieces together who maybe they've played together here and there overseas, obviously like Courtney Vandersloot, Brianna Stewart, for example. But this specific group and specific core hasn't really all played meaningful minutes of basketball together, unlike the Aces. So Sandy has that challenge of sort of meshing, ball screen defense with Jonquel Jones and Brianna Stewart, or usage on the offensive end, ball handling wise with Courtney Vandersloot and Sabrina Ionescu. If she can do that though, because she has that bigger challenge, I think if she rises to that challenge, she's got to be my coach of the year.
See, that's the thing is when it comes to coach of the year, like you said, it goes one of two ways. Because you can either look at like Becky and Sandy are coming in both with the most talent, but they also have the most pressure. Like all the eyes are on you, your two teams. You're expected to be 1 and 2. Your 4 matchups are expected to be fantastic. So it's kind of almost, I mean, people are like, well, they did what they were supposed to. So is that really good coach? Or you just, I mean, and it, I remember Cheryl talking about that during the Blinks dynasty. Getting, staying good when you're supposed to be good is sometimes harder than not being expected anything, sneaking up there. But on the same end, like you said, if, Eric Tebow for the Mystics or, Tanisha Wright for Atlanta, if they get the 3-4 seed and they get up there in that log jam, or if you see someone like Chicago, Seattle, Minnesota, all who are predicted to be in down years, let's say their coach gets them in the playoffs. Let's say they get a 6 or 5 or 6 seed and really shock people. How do do they look at coach of the year? Do you say, okay, they overachieve with their team, or do you look at someone who kind of, but I agree with you. The league, we've talked about it before, the league voters, people who vote on these things tend to kind of go with what would usually be the easy look, and they go with best record, that coach is coach of the year. I agree with you. And the other thing I'll say is, and this is no knock to Vegas, New York's core is younger. Candace Parker and going there is great, but she's even said, I don't plan on playing every game this year. I plan on, load managementing this kind of thing. I don't see New York having Jonquel and Brianna and them doing load management if they don't have to. If it's kind of a fight for that 1 seed, they'll go the distance where Candace may have to sit out a game or two here and there, stuff like that. So I think they're a younger of the group, where Vegas got a little bit, like you said, more older with the experience with Candace, Alicia. Both also have injury histories, knee issues. I will go with Sandy as well. I think New York's gonna edge them out, probably by a couple games. I just think Vegas is gonna almost play like the San Antonio Spurs level way, where they're like, we don't care for 1 or 2. We just will play for the playoffs, and we'll be 100% healthy at the playoffs, no matter what our seed is.
Yeah, no, I even aside from coach of the year, I think it's a good point about the Aces, especially after they already got their championship. I think you see that a lot, on really both sides when you look at the NBA too. Not to get into men's, but you see upstart teams who are young, and before Alicia and Candace came over, the Aces were very young, obviously, especially with those 3 number 1 picks in Jackie, Asia, and Kelsey. And you go from a stretch of being really bad for several years in a row to being good, and you're going all out in the regular season because you're good for the first time, and it's cool. And once you're good for a few years and you get over that hump and you win a championship, then you're like, all right, now we check that box. The regular season isn't as big of a deal anymore. Now that we did what we set out to accomplish once, now we're going to chill out a little bit and coast. And I think you see that in the Liberty have more to prove. And the franchise never won a championship, going back way before the super team. So I do think the Liberty are going to care a little bit more about the regular season. Outside of Alicia and Candace, I don't know if, the Aces are pretty young outside of them. I don't know if the Liberty are necessarily younger other than those 2 spots, because they do have Courtney Vandersloot, who's getting up there a little bit. But yeah, they also are a little bit deeper, I think, to me, the Liberty are. So they can also withstand, and the Aces are deeper than they were last year, but the Liberty can withstand a little bit more of that kind of wear and tear of the regular season anyway. So definitely think that's a good point, and it's why I think the Liberty would be my pick to get the 1 seed, the Aces to get the 2 seed. All I think it will be close. I would give the edge to Liberty for a lot of the reasons you said.
I agree. So we've agreed on our picks so far for award. This one we might differ, but so who would you have? This could kind of be like a 2-part. So this is like most improved breakout performer kind of this year. Who are some of your candidates for that, or even your pick for that?
I got 2 candidates I'm looking at in particular. There's a lot. There's so many this year. I think we're ripe for a bunch of those because of all the different movement that we talked about in free agency. And so a lot of teams have new looks, and players are going to be in new roles, which is part of what happens when you see a player break out. They go to a new team, or someone on their team leaves and they're into a new role. The 2 I'm looking at in particular, Ryan Howard on Atlanta, I think in year 2. Uh, she she had a pretty good rookie year. She didn't shoot the ball really well, and I think that's going to be the biggest improvement she makes in year 2. Shots are going to start to go down. She was already a pretty solid defender as a rookie, and we've seen Tanisha Wright, knows how to coach a defense. The other one I'm looking at is Ezzy Magagor in the Storm. I think we were talking about her as a breakout candidate last year, and she kind of did, but I think she could do it again. Why not take the same step that she already did last year, basically break out 2 years in a row? We're looking at, Brianna Stewart left. Maybe Sue Bird leaving sort of hurts in a sense offensively with that facilitator, but you're also just the new look Storm, I think, are wide open in terms of usage, and of course Jewel Lloyd is going to be the alpha, but after that, I think there's a lot of work to be had for Ezzy on both sides of the ball, and I think she's really got the potential. And she's still, I mean, she's been in the league a few years, so we forget because most players come into the league, they're already 22 or whatever because the WNBA rules with college. But when you come from overseas, I think she was 18 when she got drafted. She's
Mhm.
like probably the same age as a bunch of these rookies. She might be the same age or even younger than Aaliyah Boston or Diamond Miller. I would have to look it up, but I want to say she's 21 or 22. So she's still right there. We haven't seen the best of her by a long shot. I'm excited to see what we get from Ezzy this year, and I think she's a prime candidate.
I have one, and I don't know why, but as soon as I thought of this, she kept standing out to me. And I'm going Dana Evans at Chicago Sky. We
Big one.
lost
I like it.
Courtney Vandersloot, and Dana has shown those big moments she liked to step up. And even when they were like when she was on the team, she has shown flashes of what she could do. This year, she has the reins. Like, I would assume she's going to be your starting point guard. You're going to have a faster pace. You're not trying to slow down. You're not behind Vandersloot, who you knew was going to play 30 to 35 minutes a game, if not 40. You're kind of, and I think she can almost play maybe through some of her missteps, where I think sometimes she played tight because you knew as soon as there was a turnover, if I did this wrong, here comes Flute walking off, because Flute's not going to stay on the bench long enough the way it is. So you might speed that up if you have a turnover. I think she'll play freer. I think we'll see a more offensive minded. I think Chicago's going to probably be a little bit more attack off the dribble drive, look to push the pace, kind of break teams down one on one. And I think that fits her game pretty well. So she would be my pick for like a breakout player. That's not saying Chicago's going to have a fantastic season. They've lost a lot, but I think she's going to have a really productive season and kind of help shore up some of the scoring that they lost.
Well, sometimes breakout players come from teams who aren't having a good season as a team, and like I mentioned, the role changes and personnel leaving opens up those spots for you, and that's a perfect example. I love that one. Just kind of, they brought in some guards in Marina Mabry and Courtney Williams, but I think the point guard role is hers for the taking if she wants it, and certainly she's going to get significant backup minutes as kind of her floor, even if she doesn't sort of take that starting job right away. But I've seen a lot of quotes and coverage out of Sky early training camp so far that suggests that job is hers. So I think you're right. I think we're going to see some big things from her.
Now let's go to the other end, the less sexy version of basketball, the defensive side.
Hey, defense is sexy. I don't know what you're talking about, Eric. I love defense.
Who you got for some of your key defenders here?
Key defenders.
Or for defensive player of the year, who we would
Yeah,
like
defensive player. I mean, Asia Wilson's the best defender in the game, just point blank. I don't think there's much discussion, in my opinion, about that. In terms of some players that maybe might take a step up and sort of, insert themselves into that upper echelon of defenders conversation, I think you're looking at a couple on the Mystics. I mean, Brittany Sykes is already there, but I think being in that system is going to really help kind of the world to see even more what she can do on defense. But I also want to talk about Shakira Austin anchoring that defense in the back, protecting the rim, and in the way that she developed last year, so much further than I think maybe anyone thought she would in year one already. I think that defense is going to be really good. That the Mystics may have the best defense in the league. They're not going to be. They might not. That might be too bold of a claim. They're certainly not going to be in the conversation overall with the Liberty and the Aces as a team, but defensively, I think they'll be right there. I think those two are a big reason why. And I mean, Brianna Stewart is right there, and one notch below Asia Wilson in my opinion on the defensive end too. If we're talking about defense player of the year candidates, I mean those are your two on defense and MVP. That's we're in that era where there's two and there's everyone else, but that's who I'm looking at.
I want to give her a shout out. I'll say Brittany Griner. I think she's going to be in that conversation, but the only problem is it's so hard to put expectation on her because we don't know. She's looking great and looks happy, and it's fantastic to have her in the league, but we don't know what we can what can be counted on. So it's hard. So I think, if she's even 50% Brittany Griner is still great, better than 90% of the people in the world playing basketball. I just don't know if it's if she's going to have, I think her timing needs to come back. I think those first maybe month or so, she's getting her sea legs under her. She's kind of getting back to being, regular Brittany, and even regular Brittany's pretty good. Here's where the bias is coming out. I think Nafisa Collier is a criminally underrated defender. She's 100% healthy now. I stand by what I said. Nafisa Collier has no issue guarding Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart. She will block their shots. They may still win the game. She's going to make their night. She's going to make them work for every point they have. Nafisa Collier, to me, needs to be discussed more as a defender because she'll guard guards. She will, guard posts. She'll guard superstars. She will do everything, and she will look bored while she's doing it because Nafisa doesn't show a lot of emotion. So I think she is criminally underrated as a defender, and that is why I'm going to give her a shout out here because as much as bias I am, I don't think I can give her much love when it comes to the MVP race because I don't see the links being up there, but I will give her flowers here as a defensive player.
I like it. I love when you get biased on me, Eric. I love it.
Collier is, I stand by. I want a 8x10 of when she blocked Katie Lou Samuelson their rookie year. I have never loved a block more in my life.
Hey, all our listeners, whenever Eric's birthday is, someone get on that.
Anyway,
You need it. I see some blank wall space to your over. That shoulder. I can't tell if it's right or left because we're mirror images. Whatever that shoulder, that 8x10 go right up there.
That was my phone background for a long time. My phone save screen was her blocking Katie Lou. That was all-time favorite block. But now we'll get to what could also be a two-person race, maybe a few more. We'll go MVP. I'll let Kelvin start because he's going to probably say it more eloquently than I will. Who the MVP race between?
Yeah, this is what I alluded to with the coach of the year. Same angle where you're talking about, like you said, probably a two-player race. But what it's really going to come down to is one of the two that we talked about, Asia Wilson or Brianna Stewart, or whoever the best player on the 3 seed is, which I think the most likely candidate there would be Elena Delle Donne. If she's healthy, no load management this year, because no one with load management is winning MVP. If she can play 36 games, let's say, and the Mystics can get the 3 seed as we think they will, I think she would have a shot, and maybe a few others that I'll talk about in a minute, only because when you look at how loaded some of those two teams are, the Aces and the Liberty, you maybe could see a situation where Brianna Stewart and Asia Wilson are, their numbers are down a little bit. Number one, volume-wise, just from having so many other options around them. Number two, minutes-wise, when they win every game by 20 and they're not playing in the fourth quarter. So if you go from a pure numbers standpoint, are they going to put up the same counting stats that we've seen them at their peak? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, Asia was already on a loaded team last year, but now you're even putting Candace Parker in the mix. I still think those would be my two favorites. So I don't think that sort of splitting votes or sharing stats kind of effect is going to be enough to really take the award away from one of them. But if it happened, you would be looking at the best player on the 3 seed, which could be EDD, like I said. Who knows? Maybe it could be Brittany Griner. You talked about maybe we don't know what we're going to get from her. She's on the wrong side of 30, coming back from obviously a terrible situation. And we heard in her press conference that she feels like she's not fully back in shape yet, but she's getting there and hopes to be. So hopefully she is soon. It depends on how soon she gets there. But I mean, if she's healthy all year and gets back to peak form or even anywhere close to it, if the Mercury get the 3 or 4 seed, she might be sort of a dark horse candidate. Another one I want to throw out there is Alyssa Thomas, because I think we could see her go crazy. And I want to give some props to my guy Miles Ehrlich from Winsider, who made this comparison um, when Russell Westbrook on the Thunder, when Kevin Durant left, and Westbrook was like the only guy left on that team, and he averaged a triple double, and no one had done that in the NBA in like 40 years or whatever. But
Mhm.
that was all him. And now she's in that situation where, she's on the Connecticut Sun, and Jonquil Jones left, and what if she averages a triple double? She probably won't, but who knows?
She could.
So yeah, right. If anyone could, she could, especially in this situation that she's in now. She's going to get all the load she can handle. So she's sort of in that conversation too. I think in that second tier after Asia and Stewie of maybe players who could challenge and she's on a team that's good enough to maybe get the 3 or 4 seed as well, if they play up to their potential, and if Stephanie White has a good first year at the helm there. So those are just some names I'm looking at, but ultimately it is going to come down to Asia and Stewie. And it's really hard to make a pick, but I know you're going to make me make a pick. So I'm going to go with Asia. I'm going to go like 51-49 Asia.
There. So here's what I'll start us out with. This is why I normally say MVP, because it's right there on the writing. There's no way a team that's not a top 3 seed, top 4 seed is going to get MVP. Nafisa could average triple double herself. If she's the 8 seed or the 9 seed, it doesn't matter. So to me, it's like you ain't gonna. So that's why I'm like, okay, my faith in Fee has never wavered. My faith in the rest of the organization has wavered. So Fee, I'm still on the boat. But I will say this: when I was thinking about that, I thought of what you said. You have more faith in the WNBA voters than I do. I think all of them will look at how loaded New York and Vegas are. I have, because Asia won it last year, correct?
Yes.
I think fairly or unfairly, everyone's gonna be like, well, she can't win it twice in a row. And I think that's what will shift it. If it is those two, it'll go to Bree Stewart, because people don't like they want something different.
That's no, voter fatigue is a real thing in all sports. That's a real thing.
And so that, but to me, and I agree with you, I hesitate to say this, but my pick I'll officially go with is Elena Delle Donne.
All right, there it is.
I
All
have a
right.
lot of faith in her health and a lot of faith in the Mystic staff, but she's saying she's feeling great, the healthiest she's ever felt. They have they are the predominantly picked to be that third team, that next one that, if New York or Vegas stumble, they're kind of waiting right there in the wings. That's why, and I think if Elena, like you said, 35, 36 games, not doing load management, is that best player on that third thing, I think it's going to be easier for voters to be like, well, she stood out above her whole team, and here she's at 3, where the other two had more help, which help gets used against players all the time when it comes to MVPs. That's why Maya Moore should have probably had 8 MVPs in my opinion, but she had help all the time when she was there. So that's why Candace Parker has a few MVPs. So bitterness coming out here, but I will go with Elena Delle Donne, hoping that I'm hoping she's accurate. I would love to see a healthy EDD. I think that would be, it's been since her MVP season, I think we haven't really seen a healthy part. If she's 100% healthy and goes all year, I think the Mystics could be really dangerous.
That's a good point. The last time we saw her fully healthy with no load management, she did win an MVP. So we could definitely see it. Yeah, the help thing, like you said, it gets used in Coach of the Year and MVP both. Coach of the Year, people say, well, this coach, Dawn Staley doesn't deserve Coach of the Year because she has the best team or whatever. Well, like, why does she have the best team? Because she's a good coach. But it's the same with MVP. Some players make the players around them better, and some players are just the best player whether they have help or not. So I like the spiciness though. Not too spicy. She might be third right now, but I whether she wins MVP or not, I'm with you that I really, really hope we just get to see full strength EDD for the entire season. Give me that.
Now you brought up spice, so now we'll go a little bit spicy. I'm guessing you'll be nicer in it. Overrated, underrated. Is there any team or player that you feel right now is overrated or underrated?
Oh, that's tough because I don't know what teams are even rated where outside of those top 2 or 3. Like the opinions vary so widely from everything I've seen. I'll say this. I think any team any team after the top tier that we talked about, could make the playoffs. I think literally anyone could make the playoffs. And I think there are about eight, seven, six, seven, eight teams that could even get a top 4 seed. So anyone who people are saying, oh, they're definitely like, there's no way they make the playoffs. Oh, they're definitely gonna be 11th or 12th. Like maybe a little bit underrated. I do think the Fever are the worst team, but I'm starting to come around on the possibility of them taking a step this year too. The more I see and the more I sort of look into it and talk to people. So you can maybe put them in that underrated camp in terms of, would it shock me if the Fever are the 9th or 10th best team this year? Absolutely not. I would still put them 12th right now, but this landscape is so confusing that who knows. Overrated, overrated teams. Are there any? I mean,
Yes,
all right. Well, maybe you should take this one because
deal.
the top 2 are properly rated. I guess you could say, I think when I'm looking at betting odds and things like that, a lot of people have, well, the sports books and maybe a lot of other people have the Aces #1 and the Liberty #2, and I would flip it, like I said. So maybe you could give the Aces as a slight overrated team, but not really. Like they're awesome. They're one of the top 2. They're a championship contender. Like that's cut and dry. So I don't know who else I would have as seriously overrated. Maybe the Wings. Maybe the Wings a little bit because they got a new coach, and a lot of new pieces, a lot of turnover, and Enrique at some point is going to have to take that next step on defense if they want to really get to the next level. So they did bring in a defensive coach, so we'll see. But yeah, you could. I've seen some takes where the Wings may be as high as 4th or 5th, which again, it wouldn't surprise me if anyone gets that spot, but I wouldn't probably have them that high right now. So I don't want to cop out too much, so I'll pick them just because I feel like I got to pick a team, or else it's a cop out. But who knows? I mean, I don't know. That's why the league is awesome this year. It's so up in the air and wide open outside of that top tier.
I want to give Calvin all the credit in the world that he thinks Enrique will ever play defense. He has more faith than I do.
I
But I
don't
mean,
know if I said it like that,
I'll say it.
but
She ain't never playing it. But my team and here's my thing, and this is maybe too harsh. I don't know why anyone has the Sparks doing anything just because of a coaching change. Last time I checked, their coach that they hired hasn't won a title. I mean, he's gotten to the promised land and they fall apart when they get there. So I'm not super impressed with them. It's like, okay, have at her. I'm just not impressed with LA. NECA doesn't impress me as the #1 on a team. You have Katie Lou gone due to pregnancy. You kind of have a logjam of point guards. To this day, I was very confused at why they took Zaya Cook. You have Jasmine Thomas. You have Jordan Canada. Confused where Zaya Cook fits in with that. So I don't view the Sparks as a threat whatsoever. And I would even venture to say, we'll get to this in the next part, but I would venture to say them and the Lynx, in my opinion, are fighting for that 8-9 spot to see which one can pull it together to get that last spot in the playoffs. And then, so that's why to me, I'm like, I don't view them, LA, as a threat to be a 3, 4, 5, even 6, personally.
well, I'm going to pull up the Sparks schedule here because if the Sparks play the Lynx in the last week of the season and they're both on that 8-9 cut line with that rivalry, I know the rivalry's died out a little bit, but how fun would that be? It looks like they don't, so that's a bummer. They don't play each other in the last month, unfortunately. The one devil's advocate to what you said is if you watched AU Athletes Unlimited, Lexi Brown was the best shooter in the history of basketball for like a month. And if she can shoot remotely close to that, that's going to give them something that maybe, something big on the wing. Because right now, like you said, they got a lot of point guards and they got a lot of bigs outside of NECA. They have Azare Stevens. They have Dearica Hamby, who I guess is more of a big wing, but she's never.
I mean, like I said, she could come back. Fee came back, but we always, with the pregnancy, it's kind of like
Yeah, right.
you
Who knows?
never know. The body, like I said, you never know how it's going to heal, how it goes.
Exactly.
What I will say with Lexi Brown is she's also now playing for the coach that let her die on the bench in Connecticut. That's why she got traded to the Lynx in the first place, was because she was dying on the bench. So, and my thing is, Lexi is great when Lexi's happy. It doesn't take much for Lexi to be unhappy. Not in a game when she should be, not getting the shots she should be, not having entourage give her every flower that she thinks she deserves. So when Lexi's unhappy, that tends to lead to her play on the court not being productive. And so that's why to me, I'm like, you have a coach that you and her already have a past. We can all mend fences. This isn't Skylar Diggins and the Phoenix coach. We can all mend fences, but that's why with me is Lexi, I'm like, let's see how you do. Because they went and got Zaya Cook. You have 2 point. I mean, so to me, it's like, that's why I just don't view LA much as a threat. I could be completely wrong. Maybe
Yeah,
they'll shock
well,
me for once.
let's see how you do is kind of my motto for 3/4 of the league this year because that's the fun thing about free agency really going crazy is that we don't know what to expect because so many of these teams look so new. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the teams looked almost the exact same as they did the year before. We kind of had an idea what to expect. This year, no clue. I don't know what I'm talking about. So let's wait and see. But I would agree. I don't have the Sparks top 5 or anything like that. I think this is a league where you're going to see maybe what we had last year, but even like to more extreme where we had, what was it, like a 4 or 5 way tie for 7th or something like that with like a
We were
week
there
left
for a little bit.
last year. Yeah, and the Lynx were part of that. A lot of teams in it till the last day or two, and I think we're going to see that maybe at least to that extent, maybe more. I think the Sparks will be in that group where we have a huge group from who knows 6 to 10, 5 to 11, whatever it is. None of them have clinched a playoff spot yet, and none of them have been eliminated yet. With like 4 days to go in the season, I think the Sparks are going to be in that group, and it'll be fun to see how it plays out. But it's it's definitely the most unpredictable year outside of the top that I can remember since I've been following the league.
So he's led us into my next one. Got to make predictions, then we can all be wrong. Who are your 4 teams that are going to be in the lottery for the next year?
Oh, oh man, I have no clue. Okay, well, I'm still gonna go with the Fever though. As much as like I said, maybe they have improved. I still would have them last at this moment. I'm gonna go with the Sky. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of all their offseason moves, although they have the ceiling is there. But they James always got his work cut out for him. Put it that way. Um, just looking through the landscape here. I don't know, man. Honestly, I could see the Storm falling that low, but I don't know if Jewel Lloyd's going to let that happen.
The three
You
for
could
three. I agree with those. I agree with. I have those 3 as down.
okay, okay. I could see. I mean, there's a lot of teams that I look at here and I see like they definitely have that floor. Like
Mhm.
their worst case scenario is absolutely 10th or 11th in this league if things don't click. There's like half the league I could say that about. Uh, and I don't know. I mean, you're not gonna like this. I could maybe see the Lynx falling that far again. I could maybe see the Wings falling that far again. Like you said, the Sparks. I think those 3 teams, maybe I would have sort of battling it out for like ninth for that, 7, 8, 9, and one of them gets in the lottery. I don't know who it'll be. I know you want me to have the Lynx as my top 4, so you
Correct.
can convince me. You can twist my arm here. You can tell me why I shouldn't have the Lynx in that group. But you were with me on 3 of them. So who's your 4th?
The Lynx. I'm telling you right now, and here I'm going to surprise people. Bottom out for Brink. Bottom out for Brink. We have no starting center on the
So do you think Caitlin Clark's coming back for her 5th year?
100%.
Okay, okay.
Her, Page, and Angel are not coming out till 2025. That's why the WNBA magically can't get expansion until 2025. But anywho, so my thing is bottom out for Brink. The Lynx don't have if you look at the 1 and 5 position for the Lynx this year, yikes. Our 2 ones that we have in training camp are Lindsay Allen and Rachel Bannum. Our 5 right now is either going to be Jessica Shepard, Dantas, or Milic. Milic and Shepard are more than willing to do it, but that's a lot to ask for you to be with WNBA Center 5 with those 2. Dantas is probably the one that should do that because the inside out with her and Fee. When we saw in the bubble, when Sil was out, Dantas was the 5, Fee was the 4, we were the 4 seed. But she has such a hesitation to do that, which frustrating, but so to me, bottom out for Brink. get in the lottery and get Cameron Brink. I mean, come on now. I'll buy a Brink jersey a year in advance. I love me some Cameron Brink. Imagine her and Nafisa Collier as your 4-5. I bottom out for Brink.
So before we did this, Eric texted me that I was gonna have to come on this podcast with him and convince everyone why the Lynx are a dark horse to be the 4 seed or whatever. I fully thought that you were gonna be convincing me of that, but apparently I'm wrong. So we may agree more than I realized on the Lynx, but I would not shock me at all to see the Lynx in that lottery. Why not?
Bottom out for Brink. I want to sign every time bottom out for Brink because I don't see
Take a shot every time Eric says that.
I don't see Caitlin Page or Angel coming out. So let's be honest, who else is going to be the #1 pick next year? Because she bottom out for Brink. I want Cameron Brink as I think we talked about this. I wanted her to like come out early this year so bad, and she could by 1 day. She's born, born like
Yeah, but she
1 day.
stuck around.
I'm like, and when Haley came out, I'm like, y'all didn't have a good season. Maybe we just push her to the WNBA. Then we get Brink. Indiana can take Boston. We'll all be happy. So and I said, as a Lynx fan, I hope I'm wrong. But your two most important positions in this league, we're having question marks. So I'm like, we're in trouble. Like we lost it. Don't get me wrong. I think we'll have a more free flowing offense, maybe a faster pace. When you don't have a consistent one, and we saw how that worked last year, having rotation ones, and we finally
Yeah, it
got
feels like the
Martha.
Lynx have had that for like a long time. I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it's been 2-3 years that the Lynx have had a revolving door at the one.
Since Lindsay Whalen retired, we have no idea what we're doing at the one. And so that's why to me, I'm like, and especially if you look at like Chicago and Seattle, this is the year where I love that 2-year thing for the draft lottery because we'll have the highest chance at the 1 seed. Besides Indiana, so I'm hoping Indiana's up there in like 8, 9, like 8, 10, like 8, 7, like
Yeah.
Get out of the lottery. I mean, but if they got Boston, do they really need Brink? I'm just saying. So that's why
That's a good point.
and they're gonna like to hear it. I hope I'm wrong. But I think we're gonna be in the bottom 4, and I think we're gonna bottom out for Brink.
All right, there it is. The guy wearing the Lynx hoodie himself.
Correct, exactly. So now, championship finals matchup teams and your prediction.
Well, this is good because you got the finals matchup and the winner correct 2 years ago, and I don't think I've gotten them correct either year. Did I get? Maybe I got one. I don't remember. I definitely haven't nailed all of it.
Seattle and Vegas was semis, wasn't it?
Last year, yeah, that was the semis.
I had Mystics in Vegas in the championship, and I had Mystics winning it, so I got one team.
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten both teams and the championship correct. Maybe I got, last year I think I got both teams right, but the champion wrong. I think I had Sun and Aces, but I had the Sun winning. This year is good because I have a feeling that we're both going to get the matchup right, and then we can, chalk that up to our record. But I'm not going to get crazy. I'm not going to be overthinking it all. It's Liberty Aces. There's no other matchup that's going to happen. The question is who's going to win. And that's an interesting question because I talked about how I got the Liberty maybe a little bit as a front runner for the 1 seed. Even though they're going to have to kind of make those pieces gel in a way that the Aces won't, but the Liberty are also going to care more in the regular season. And I think they're a little bit deeper and more talented. When it comes to the playoffs, though, playoff experience is a big deal. The Aces have a lot more of that. Although Jonquil has obviously been in the finals a couple times. Stewie has plenty of that. But in terms of playing together, Sabrina, hasn't been out of the first round. I guess Courtney Vandersloot has a championship. Now that I talk myself through it, the Liberty actually have a lot more playoff experience than I realized. Just not together is the problem. Fair. But by the time they get there, they might work that out. So I'm sort of just been making this up on the spot, to be honest with you. I'm going to go with the Liberty in 5.
So we agree on the matchup, and I'm going to be honest, we agree on who wins. But this is why I say it. This is where I think, like, Candace Parker is going to have to guard Brianna Stewart or Jonquil Jones. And especially in a game 3 or 4, there's only 1 day's rest. Or game 2, if you're, because we've always said Candace is good when she gets a couple days rest. You don't always get that in the finals. And especially if you're like, let's say they get the Mystics, let's say Phoenix or Mystics in the semis, and let's say they can push them 4 or 5. And Vegas maybe has to go to 5 to get there, where maybe New York only has to go to 4 to get past, or 3 or whatever. That's more wear and tear on Candace. And then you have people like Chelsea Gray, who, don't get me wrong, Chelsea Gray was outstanding last year. Chelsea Gray was going up against 40-year-old Sue Bird. That's a little different than going up against Courtney Vandersloot and Sabrina. Those are a little bit younger legs. Those are a little bit, Sabrina, I'm not saying she's overly physical, but Sabrina doesn't shy away from physicality. I don't think she's a great defender, but she doesn't shy away from physicality. So to me, Vegas is going to have, there's a little bit more pressure coming from New York than Vegas kind of had last year coming at them, where you're having Candace Parker has to defend Brianna Stewart or Jonquel Jones. I don't know which one she'd guard. No, get me wrong, she probably could do it well for 2 or 3 games. I don't think for a full 5-game series, Candace is going to be able to hold one of those down. So I go New York in 5.
Yeah, well, Candace is the second oldest player in the league right now.
And if
to your
the
point,
oldest one would just give up, we would all be
the walking fossil, as she's been called recently. I mean, a little bit of a maybe devil's advocate. I don't know if Courtney Vandersloot, Sabrina Ionescu are necessarily like an elite defensive backcourt. Maybe a little bit better than 40-year-old Sue Bird. I do think Chelsea Gray proved her mettle against a much better defensive backcourt last year in Connecticut Sun, better than what the Liberty currently have, just in terms of defense
right.
in the backcourt, not as a team, obviously. And much better than 40-year-old Sue Bird. So I wouldn't really worry too much about playoff Chelsea Gray stepping up. Your points about Candace, are maybe solid depending on if we see load management in the regular season. And if we do, maybe she is fresh for the playoffs. Who knows? I wouldn't necessarily bet against her, but to me, the separating factor is the depth. The Aces got a little bit deeper with Alicia Clark, but she's going to be 36 by the time we get to that point. We'll see what Kayla George can do. I'm excited to see what she can do. Kia Stokes maybe being like the 8th best player instead of the 5th, what she was in the playoffs, is definitely a win for the Aces. At the same time, you're talking about a Liberty team that's bringing Han Shu off the bench. They're bringing Maureen Johannes off the bench. Like, the talent that they have sitting on that bench is wild. And I do think even the starting lineup is a little bit more talented when you look at they each have one of the top 2 players. I think the Liberty probably have the 3rd best player in Jonquel Jones, the MVP from 2 years ago. I think when you match up the backcourts, they're pretty even, and then maybe the Aces' one advantage is sort of at 3 with Jackie Young over Benijah Laney. But when you go through 1 through 8, 1 through 9, I think the Liberty just win more spots overall.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's as everyone's healthy, they're going to have a slight edge.
I was going to say, like Benijah Laney, you have the younger Alicia Clark and Benijah Laney. I mean, similar 3-and-D. Benijah maybe isn't as strong of a 3-point shooter, but will lock you down, likes to get big and physical. Well, I think that's why, I mean, Jackie Young's going to have that's going to be a fun matchup of Benijah Laney, Jackie Young. Jackie's probably more offensively polished right now, but I'd say Benijah's maybe the better defender. So that it would be a fun matchup no matter what. Let's be honest. Those 5 games, I want them like in triple overtime. I want them nuts.
Me too. Sign me up for however many overtimes we can get. We haven't even talked about, Steph Dolson is now coming off the bench. Kayla Thornton, who they brought in over the offseason.
Another defender.
Another defender, right? They can just come. I mean, they can come at you. It's not just a super team 1 through 5, and that's scary because across sports, I feel like when we have seen super teams in any sport, in the history of like since sports have existed, I feel like you often see a starting lineup super team, and then there's a big drop off because that's what happens when sports have salary caps. Is if you want a super team, you give your whole salary cap to your first 5 and sign 6 through 12 to the minimum. But the Liberty have good players on the bench, and that's a huge deal. So going with Liberty, things can be close. And as a neutral fan, like you said, you need like 5, 17 overtime games, whatever, just all night.
Forever. Like I said, to quote what you said, to quote Cheryl Reeve, The Lynx lucked out that the salary cap was not, or that financials was not, like when you had the five, because I mean, those five should have worked criminally underpaid because of the structure of the pay was, so you could always kind of keep them together. I mean, the year when you had, they're similar when you had like Renee Montgomery, Gia Perkins, Plannette Pearson all coming off the bench. Like, so I'm like, that's fair. When you have a deep bench like that, you're probably supposed to win. But now with my favorite part, we're putting Kelvin on the hot seat because, as we said, I'm a huge Haley Jones fan. I love her podcast. I'm gonna try and do this rapid fire. These are either over, under, yes, no, or like one or few word answers. Ready for this?
All right, hit me.
Taurasi will play over or under 25 regular season games.
Under.
Parker will play over or under 25 regular season games.
Candace,
Mm.
over.
Tina Charles will be on a roster by the end of the regular season. Yes or
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Yes or no, Skylar Diggins-Smith has played her last game for the Phoenix Mercury.
No.
Nafisa Collier will be top five in statistical categories over or under 3.
Points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks.
Or rebound. Yeah, any defensive or whatever category. So over or under top 5 in the league and 3 statistical categories.
3 categories. Can I go a push on that one? Exactly 3?
Exactly 3. Okay, I'll take it.
Go with a push.
Over or under 3 rookies averaging double-digit points.
Under.
Under. Okay. Yes or no, someone other than Diana Taurasi will lead the league in technicals.
You know, I'm gonna say yes because Diana Taurasi isn't gonna play enough games. I took her under. This is a lot more than one word, but I took her under on 25 games. So someone who plays all 40 games or 38 games.
What will happen first, WNBA expansion or Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, and Angel Reese will be in the WNBA?
I'm gonna say the same year as what you referred to.
2020. I was like, when we talked about it, I'm like, dang, I took one of my own questions.
You did.
What top 2 team has more pressure on them to succeed this year, New York or Vegas?
Yeah, all right, you gotta let me talk through this one a little bit. I know you said one word.
That's why it's the last one.
That's why it's the last one. Good. Okay, my instinct wants to say New York because they are new to this and they haven't won a championship. At the same time, the Aces have all this kind of off-court cloud stuff hanging over them, which I feel like push some pressure. But I'm still going to say New York, just from the standpoint of, like I said, Aces got their ring. You know, you're always trying to build a dynasty and win 2, 3, 4 rings, but you got one. You check the box. New York really, to justify this super team, needs to win at least one.
I have one more. Yes or no, Becky Hammon will still be the coach after 2023 in the WNBA.
Like to start 2024?
Yeah, sure. This will, like, yes or no, this is her last season coaching in the WNBA.
No.
I hope you're right, because I wish someone would say like you had your chance, and so that's my personal opinion. You had your chance, you let her walk, and now you see that she's successful. Kick rocks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will.
I gotta talk about them boys.
We will end with this. What has you the most excited for the upcoming WNBA season?
Every Liberty Aces game.
There's 4 of them. Yeah, they play
Hopefully 9. Hopefully we get 9 of them. Hopefully we get 10 of them, actually. Commissioner's Cup. And all 10 is what I'm excited for.
What has me most excited? Nafisa Collier is back, y'all. She's 100% healthy. Phoebe about to remind y'all why she's the top 5 player, in my humble opinion, in the WNBA. Y'all better watch out.
MVP. She's coming.
She's coming. I'm telling you, once we get Brink there with her, and then we get Clark or Beckers the following year, and Fee's still in her prime, we're loaded.
Lynx Dynasty 2.0. You heard it from Eric first.
That's why I say bottom out for Brink.
Take a shot.
You have to do step 1. Well, Calvin, I want to say thank you. Year 3, we're doing this here. So thank you. Maybe we'll do like a mid-season check-in, maybe when Nafisa's, averaging in top 5 in every category in the league, and that 3 is kind of push. Maybe we'll check back in, but one last time before we let you go, where can people find you on social media?
C Wetzel 31. Do you have my name on the screen?
Yep, we will.
Okay, so that's how you spell my last name. C and then my last name 31.
And then you can send all your hot takes to us in our DMs. We're used to it. If you're a Sparks fan, sorry. Good luck this season. But once again, thank you, Calvin. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this. And I enjoy talking the game. You keep me humble with the links. We kept it humble. So, and if you also
Yeah,
want to
thanks
see him
for
in
having
person,
me.
you want to see him in person, just go to any Illinois State sport.
That's right. That's right. Go
There you
Birds,
go.
baby. Go
That's where
Birds.
perfect place to end it. So thank you.